All right, so today we're diving into this piece called "The Muse." It's from Northwind Illustrations, and yeah, it's really cool. I mean, from what I saw, especially from the podcast episode you shared with me. I mean, talking about how it was created and the meaning behind it, and even how it was adapted into like a cushion.
Into a cushion.
I mean, that's fascinating. So, what was it about the Muse specifically that that made you want to bring it to this deep dive? What sparked your interest?
Well, I think what's really interesting here is it kind of goes beyond just looking at art. We're talking about a piece that's become tactile.
Right.
It's almost like a reminder that art can be so much more than just something we see, right? It can be something we feel and something we live with.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the Muse, we know it started as inspired by a rainy walk in British Columbia, ink on paper, trying to capture the essence of that walk, the feeling of the wind. And I'm curious, did you picture this walk as you were listening to the podcast? What kind of rainy day are we imagining here?
I totally did. And, the fact that it's ink on paper, I think really adds to that feeling as well. Ink just has this amazing fluidity, and the way it interacts with the paper's texture, it almost brings the rain to life. And, if you think about it, there are so many, classic Japanese ink wash paintings, like hokusai,
Right.
where you can almost feel that mist hanging in the air, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
It's a really cool medium for that.
Okay, so let's get into some of the visuals here. So we know there are lines and shapes and the sense of movement and texture. We have a color palette of beige brown and this muted blue. I'm hearing peace and creativity, but also maybe something a little bit more introspective or even melancholic from that muted blue. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're really picking up on something there, I think, that while those warm neutral colors, those beiges and browns, they often, really ground us and create a sense of stability. That muted blue, it adds another layer to it, right? It brings in that sense of contemplation that you're talking about, maybe even a touch of sadness.
Right.
And the lines and swirls you mentioned that create the energy and movement,
Yeah.
they're not just about our thoughts, right? It's how our thoughts ebb and flow, how they shift and change, kind of like the wind on a rainy day.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. And the artist was very intentional about wanting to convey that feeling of the walk.
Okay.
And wanting to evoke a sense of balance.
Yeah.
Almost this yin and yang kind of a feeling.
Absolutely.
Of the familiar and the unknown. And really trying to spark thought and creativity in the viewer.
And that's what's so powerful about abstract art, right? It's like this mirror that reflects our own emotions and experiences back to us. So we're free to kind of find our own meaning in the swirls and the colors and the textures.
Right.
So the Muse, it becomes like a starting point for this conversation between the art and the viewer.
Yeah.
And it's inviting us to really explore our own internal landscapes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of exploring, let's talk about the art cushion for a second.
Okay.
I think it's so brilliant how this two-dimensional artwork is transformed into this tangible three-dimensional object.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on how that shift from canvas to cushion impacts the experience of the Muse?
It really is such a cool concept. By turning it into a cushion, the artist is introducing a whole new dimension, the sense of touch, right?
Right.
So when you can feel the texture of the fabric and the forms of the design, you're experiencing the artwork in this much more physical way. And it just adds another layer of meaning to it. Have you ever considered how touch can kind of influence how we understand art and how we connect with it?
Honestly, I haven't really thought about that before.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, stepping back, it's clear that the Muse is so much more than just an artwork. It's a journey through feeling and imagination and how we experience art itself. What a great example of how art can inspire us and move us even in the everyday objects in our homes, right?
Absolutely. And that brings up an interesting question. I mean, if you were to create an art cushion based on a personal experience, what would it be? And what emotions would you hope to capture in it?
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to have to think about that one.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, this was great. Thanks for bringing this piece to the deep dive.
Of course. Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, really interesting stuff. And to everyone listening, we'll catch you in the next one.